supporting you in your dog parenting journey. The Dynamic Dog Owner with Debbie Potter. Hello and welcome to The Dynamic Dog Owner, the podcast designed to support you, the dog parent, in your dog parenting journey. Today we're going to be talking about something that happened on my holiday recently, but there's loads of other episodes. So if you're a new listener and you haven't listened to our previous episodes, do look back. There are nearly 100 episodes, each one designed to give you some information and knowledge that will help you to enjoy being a dog parent just that little bit more. And equally, if there's a topic we haven't covered and that you would like us to cover, drop me a message, let me know, and I will add it on to our list of things to talk about. So recently I went on holiday. Now I'm a bit boring. And if you'll know this, if you've listened to the podcast before, I'm not an interesting person. I am very boring. And I go to the same places every single year on my holidays because I always think, if you've looked forward to it for a whole year, why go somewhere new and risk not having a nice time or not enjoying it? So I do go to the same spaces, same places, normally the same cottages, every single year. But that means that I can hit the ground running. I know where my dogs can walk. I know where they like walking. We can just enjoy. I also find one of the really useful things about it is that you can really see direct progress as to how your dog coped with something one year. And then a year later, because I tend to go to the same place at the same time of year, how are they now? Have they improved? What can they do this year that they couldn't do last year? And this year it was a little bit of a sad one in a way. Again, you'll know if you're a listener that my eldest dog had some health complications a couple of months ago. So about 6 months ago. So from this last year when we went to the same place to this year, I noticed a real decline in his capabilities, which was really sad. So he wasn't as able to walk as far as normal. He found it a bit more tiring, but equally it meant that he didn't have as much energy and was quite happy to sit out in the pub with us in the evening. So that was quite nice, depending on which way you look at it. And with my youngest dog, I see the progression in his focus and his engagement improving, and his time off lead and how confident he is in his space improving each year, which is really, really nice to see. But this year I kind of did a little experiment with Rem. Now Rem is my middle dog, and he is special. He has very many quirks. He's a very, very quick learner. I believe he's autistic. My kids are autistic and my whole family are neurodiverse, so I feel I can say that because I do see a lot of traits in him. And so he knows, and he forms associations very, very, very quickly. If I do something once, to him that's a given. That's a habit formed. So an example of that is that we go to a secure field maybe once a month. Once he smelt out a tennis ball that someone had put in the bin because it had broken. So he lifted the flap up, went in, got the ball and was like, wow, go me. Every single time we've been there since, considering this ball episode was probably a year ago, he always checks the bins. He goes to every bin, lifts the flap up with his nose, puts his head in just to see if there's a tennis ball. That's how quickly he forms an association. Now, again, I don't know if we've done an episode on this. I was going to, but I don't know if I've done it yet. He loves a tennis ball, which we've talked about before. The way I got him used to water, because he's a lab that doesn't like water, the way I got him used to it was through his love of tennis balls. So I used it as encouragement and reward for, if you go into the water, if you step in a puddle, you're going to get your ball. You're going to go swimming. Look, I've thrown your ball. You get to go and swim. It's how I've built his water confidence up over the last few years. He now loves water, but only because he knows he's going to get a tennis ball if he goes in the water. So what he'll often do now, and again, it's one of those you kind of go, I've made a rod for my own back here. Anytime he sees an expanse of water, he gets very, very excited. We call it like water tail. His tail goes crazy. And he'll even run into it and then stand and wait and go, well, where's the ball? Because he now associates water with ball. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Who knows? But he is the only dog that goes in the sea. And he knows that the sea, you're on holiday, you get to play with a ball in the sea. So as you walk up, you have to go up and over, like, I don't know what it's called, but like a ramp to go up and over the sand dunes down to the beach. As he walks up this ramp, his whole body starts wiggling and wiggling and wiggling and wiggling because he knows the sea's at the top. When you get to the top, his tail is like, I'm surprised it's still attached, it wags that much. And he's like, yay, I get my ball, we're at the beach. Now, normally, I'm really strict. Normally I say, you can't have your ball on the first day. You have to kind of not get used to having it because otherwise he'll expect it every day. This year I was like, sod it, it's a holiday, why not? Everyone deserves fun on the holiday. So on the first walk on the beach, he got his ball and he was happy as anything. But we did stick to the rule of you're only having it once a day, purely because if he's got a ball, all he wants me to do is throw it in the sea, and I worry about water intoxication and I worry about all of those things, and I worry about him not enjoying his walk. He won't poo or wee because he's too busy running in the sea. And obviously one of the reasons you take your dog for a walk is to go to the toilet, right? And he is weird and he won't poo in the garden. So he is only allowed his ball for half of the walk and one walk a day. Other than that, you're not allowed it. But I did sort of break you've got to wait till day 3 or 4 and he got it on the first day. Now, generally speaking, he's really, really good. He'll bring me his ball back. I ask for it. He gives it back to me and then he wants me to throw it again. But I was getting really peed off with the fact that the ball was wet, slobbery, covered in sand. And I was like, oh, this is really gross to have to keep picking this up and throwing it for you. My kids wanted to play fetch with him as well, or not play fetch because it's not playing fetch, it's throwing the ball in the water to make him swim because they like to see him swim. And they were like, we're not touching that. Again, autistic senses, sand, gross. So they didn't want to do it. And then we happened to walk into like the beach shop, and of course, what did they have in there? A ball flinger. One of the sticks that you put the ball in and you throw it and it makes it go a bit further. Now, I don't know if we talked about them on the podcast before or not yet. I know we have a blog on it. I'm not a fan. I do not like ball throwers. There's a few reasons why, and I'm going to talk about all of it now. But I saw it and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to be playing ball with him anyway. I don't want to get my hands wet and sandy every walk. I'm going to buy one. So I bought one. My kids were like, what? You don't like them? I was like, I know. Hear my logic out. I bought one and I used it on the beach for the latter kind of 3. So we were there for a week. So we had 6 days on the beach. I think I bought it for the last 3 days. So halfway through the holiday, I bought it. And I thought I would talk about my experiences of using it because Tash, who you sometimes will see on the podcast, one of our other trainers, she messaged me and went, who are you? You've bought a ball thrower? What? You've changed. Because she knows I don't like them. But let me talk you through my logic of why I don't like them, why I used one, and what I found happened in those 3 days, because it was actually really interesting, I think. Maybe I'm just a dog nerd. So one thing, why don't I like them? I don't like them because I think we've talked about it in a previous episode. Playing repetitive fetch isn't great for your dog. One, it can build stamina up. So your dog wants to work harder, run harder. 2, generally you throw it further, so they're running further. They're trying to chase it, so they run really fast. Most dogs will then try and jump and catch the ball, often twist, land funny. It's not good for joints. It can bring on early onset arthritis. It becomes a little bit of almost, especially for a dog like Rem, it becomes almost like a repetitive sort of behaviour pattern that actually ends up becoming a bit of an obsession, which would definitely happen with Rem. It already does with his ball, hence it's very limited how long he's allowed to play with it. So that's why I don't like them. Also, I have seen it before where dogs then become very obsessed about them, and even if it's not you with one, they will run over and say hello to somebody else with one. And generally speaking, your dog comes, they drop the ball at your feet, you pick it up, they run 100 metres away from you, waiting for it to land over there. So they learn that the reward actually happens way away from you. So that's one of the reasons I don't like them, in a nutshell. Obviously, too much fetch, too much impact, too much repetitiveness, too much obsessive, and rewards not with you. They're all the reasons. But I thought, do you know what? I'm only using it for a couple of days, and I'm not using it to throw it further. I'm using it to stop my hands getting covered in wet, gross, slobbery sand. That's my use. That was my reason. And the way I justified it in my mind was, we already have really strong rules around fetch and playing with a ball. He knows that it goes back in my pocket. You're not allowed to play it. And we do a little specific wind down exercise because he finds it hard to switch off. He knows he's allowed the ball here because we're at the beach. And that's what that's the association I have created in him. beach means ball. So, what harm is it going to do really? I'm throwing the ball into the sea, not along the sand. So there's no impact because he's running into the sea. It's a soft sand. It's not Stony Beach. It's a really, really beautiful sandy beach. So, there's not as much impact because the sand gives. And I found that myself actually walking, because I have shin splints that recur. I don't know why. It's really annoying. Going off on a tangent here. I love walking holidays. Anytime I go on holiday, I walk more than I do at home and I get shin splints, which is really frustrating. But on the beach, I don't get them because of the give in the sand. There's not as much impact. So it actually is better for me walking and like joints and stuff and pressure. So I figure the same thing happens with dogs. So he's not actually running and impacting. The ball's being thrown with the ball thrower into the sea. Therefore, he's running on the sand and he ends up splashing into the sea. And because obviously we throw it far enough that he can swim. So there's no impact. That's not a problem. We're only used it for a couple of days. So how quick a formation association can he form in 3 days? Well, that's what we're going to talk about because it was a strong one. And, it's not repetitiveness. He'll still bring it back to me because he knows to bring it right back to me. I ask him for it. He brings it and puts it in my hand. What harm could happen? Okay, that was my logic. Well, in theory, all of that sounds really logical, right? He knows the rules of playing ball on the beach. We've done it every time we've been to the beach. So he knows that. He's not going to be having the impact. We're not going to be playing any more than I normally would. It's just I haven't got to pick it up with my hand. And obviously, you might get a slightly better throw and be able to swim slightly further. That's it. So what did I notice? First of all, my ultimate goal was that I wouldn't have to. And obviously, the other thing is it meant my kids could play fetch with him or throw the ball into sea and see him swim. That was the other thing that I wanted to happen, which they could. So that was really nice for them to be able to interact with him without having to pick up the slimy ball. So what did I see happen? And this is the fascinating bit. Really, on the second day, all connection between us was lost. And I found it fascinating because Rem is a very, very focused dog on me. And all of a sudden, he was not. And in my head, I wasn't doing anything different. I was just using a tool. That's it. Just using a tool to make it easier for me. But what I noticed, one, so obviously, you guys will know if you're a doggy person that we have cues that say, please can I have what you've got? So an out cue. His is thank you, and it means please give me what you've got. What I didn't realise was that his cue, thank you, I normally hold out my hand, say thank you, and whatever he's got, he puts in my hand. That did not transfer to please spit it out and put it on the floor. So I still had to touch the slobbery ball. So it didn't work. The first day I tried, and he was like, what? What do you mean? I was like, yeah, put it on the floor, thank you. And he was like, no, this is strange. And he did it a little bit, but then I was finding he didn't want to give it to me because he was like, that cue, thank you, means put it in your hand. So I've learned actually that he has contextualized that cue very, very particularly. Thank you means put it in hand, not just spit it out. So I probably need to introduce a new cue that just means spit out what you've got. So there's a learning for me. We need to train a new cue. It meant though that my task of not having a slobbery hand by the second day hadn't worked. So I still had a slobbery hand because he was putting it in my hand over preference rather than putting it on the floor. So kind of defeated the object. And actually the third day didn't use it. So I only used it for like 2 days. I won't bother again is the verdict. So that was one thing. We have to put it in my hand. So I still got a dirty hand. It meant I could throw it further. So that was a real positive. He got to swim a little bit more because it threw it further than I could. But I found it very interesting that suddenly he became further away from me. Now, normally, anyone who knows Rem, if you've seen him on social media, if you've met him in person, he does not leave my side. It is lovely, but at the same time quite frustrating because I'm like, go be a dog. With using the ball thrower, he was leaving my side. and he left my side a lot more frequently, which I found strange. And he also started to become less keen. And this is literally in 2 walks, okay? This is not like over that whole week. I literally used it for 2 walks. He became more inclined to hang out further away from me. Now, if you look at it logic-wise, why is that? Because if I'm throwing the ball into the sea, he already knows the reward happens over there rather than here. The only thing I can think of is he was having to put it on the floor rather than bring it to me. So that connection at the end of the game wasn't happening. But he started to hang around further away, and he would run out down to the sea rather than hang with me, which was really interesting. So I felt that that little bit of connection had been lost. If I asked him to come to me, he'd half come and then kind of think about it. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And this is my point where I thought, I'm going to make a podcast episode on this, because it was really interesting. He also became quite obsessed with it. So obviously, I don't take a rucksack on the beach. I don't know about you guys, but I just carried the flinger to the beach, or whatever it's called. Is it thrower, flinger? I don't really know. I would carry it to the beach. And normally the ball's in my pocket and he knows it comes out when you're at the beach. Normally, again, listen to a previous episode, it's used as a reward, but on the beach it's fun. He deserves fun on holiday. Carrying the ball flinger, my dog, who normally walks beautifully by my side, was jumping up, was crabbing round, walking in front of me, getting himself all het up because I had the ball flinger. So that obsession with his ball had almost transferred to, that stick is amazing. That ball flingery thing, even though it hasn't got a ball in it, is amazing. So his walk to the beach was not as calm as normal, was more excited, and he was more, he had less impulse, less self-control. So rather than being quite, okay, I walk nicely, I get to the beach, ball happens, he was being silly and almost demanding and getting excited for the ball just because I had the stick with me, because he knew it meant it was coming. So that was interesting, I found. When we got to the beach, he was jumping up at it, like literally like, give me it. I'm like, there's nothing in the end. So that was interesting again. So the self-control kind of went out the window. And I think the icing on the cake, which proves to me why I don't use it, and I know all of this. You go, I know all of this. Why did I think this would be any different? I've got context of why I'm using it in my head. Clearly that didn't transfer over to him because, as we all know, we can't talk to our dogs and tell them why we're doing something and why it's different and why the rules are different today. He suddenly became very interested in other people. Now, I haven't noticed before how many people walk along with a ball flinger. Apparently, it's quite a few on the beach, which is fine. I'd never noticed before. But obviously, Rem's never really experienced one of these before, so he didn't know what it was, didn't have any association with it. And the second day of using it towards the end of the walk, somebody else had a ball flinger, and they lifted it in the air. He went running over toward them to go, wow, where's the ball? And I was like, that's never happened before. So he, as we know, formed his habit very quickly and said, that stick thing means amazing stuff's going to happen. That produces a ball, and I like balls. If I see somebody else having one and holding one, that means they're going to throw a ball. So he went over to somebody else once, and I was like, thank God that was at the end of our walk. I don't think I'm going to use this again. So you'd think that it doesn't really make any difference. I thought it wouldn't really make any difference whether I threw the ball from my hand or whether I threw the ball with a stick. What's the difference other than, it's convenient for me not getting my hands dirty, which sounds like I'm a right princess. I'm not. I just can't stand sand. I find, maybe I'm a bit weird. Can't stand sand. Sand in between your toes, sand in your sandwiches, disgusting. I don't like it. So I thought if I can just avoid it, then brilliant. I won't be doing it again because it didn't work. I assumed it would just be literally an easy way for me to deliver the ball, but actually it created so many more problems than just me throwing it. So I found it was really interesting. He suddenly became obsessed with this flingery thing. It affected his self-control. It affected his connection with me because the rewards were happening further away than they normally are. And because I was trying to get him to drop the ball on the floor rather than bring it to my hand, we lost extra connection there. But he also associated anyone else with a stick is fair game, and I can probably go over and say hello to them. I mean, to be fair, he only did that once. And they were throwing it for their dog, and their dog they'd met a few times on the beach before. So it wasn't an issue. He wasn't like unruly. But it showed me that his mindset changed. And all of that happened in 2 days. Maybe I didn't throw it continuously, but maybe 2 half-an-hour walks on the beach with a ball thrower before we walked back along the road so that he can go to the toilet. Isn't that quite fascinating, don't you think? How quickly dogs can form an association, and how we probably, unless we're looking out for it, wouldn't realise these associations and habits are being formed just because of something we use to throw a ball. I found it fascinating, and it made me sort of reaffirm the fact that I really don't like them. I'm not going to switch. I'm not going to be converted, much to Tash's pleasure. I'm not a changed person. I do not love them now. It was a little experiment. It didn't work. Or to Rem, it was brilliant. But to me, it didn't give the effects I wanted. I won't be using it again. But it was worth trying, right? Now, it just makes me think how, if we are using these in more context, how they're probably affecting our dog's behaviour more than we possibly give it credit for, and more than we think they are changing behaviour or influencing behaviours we maybe don't want to see. So I'm not saying don't use one, because obviously I used one. I've used many pieces of equipment in the past that I wouldn't use now. I found a photo when we were sorting out my grandparents' house of me and my husband and our 3 family dogs at the time. So our dog, my mum's dog, my grandparents' dog. We had all 3 of them on flexi extendable leads. I would never use an extendable lead now. Cannot stand them. But clearly, I mean, it was my honeymoon, so however many years ago, 18 years ago, I thought it was a good idea. And not just one dog, but 3. Our opinions can change. And that's fine. But I always think it's interesting how we use these pieces of equipment and we don't realise the impact they have on behaviour, emotions, training, and then the bigger picture of life. So I just thought it'd be interesting to share that with you. I'm not saying use one, don't use one, but my experience of how using that just for a couple of days had a significant change to how my dog interacted with me, interacted with the world, and managed his emotions. I thought it was fascinating. Obviously, Rem thought he had the best time ever. Now, what happens on holiday stays on holiday. We won't be using a ball thrower again. There's no sand where I live. Will I use it next time I go? I don't think I will, because, as I said, it didn't do the job I wanted. Yeah, I mean, the only positive was it went into the sea a bit further and he got to swim a bit more, better than I can throw. But as with anything, when you introduce something new, does the positive effect outweigh the negative? And in this situation, absolutely not. The negatives of using it was so much more than the one positive of him being able to swim a bit further. So we won't be using it again. But if you do introduce a new piece of equipment or you do something slightly different, it's really good to just take check and go, has anything changed? Because sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes it happens over time. So if you do make changes, whether this be, as I said, through having something fun effectively implemented on holiday, or whether it's a training method, or whether it's stopping doing something, you need to give it time to see if it makes a difference. So often people will say to me, and this is with training, specifically, I did that once, it didn't work. Well, it's not going to work after one go. It might work after 10 goes, because we need to form that association. Now with Rem, it's quite easy because, as I said, he forms associations very quickly. Other dogs, it takes them a longer time to form an association with things or to learn. So sticking with something for a period of time just to see if you have changes, positive or negative, is worthwhile. And just take account and take note of what they are. So for me, they were quite obvious, but it may be more subtle for you if you introduce something new. But yeah, I hope that was useful. I don't know if it is or not, but I found it fascinating. Maybe you guys will too. If you've got any questions about it, let me know. But yeah, that flinger's going in the bin.
We are approaching our 100th episode of the Dynamic Dog Owner. That's nearly 2 years since our weekly episodes launched, which is absolutely crazy. Where has the time gone? I really hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to the podcast over the last couple of years, and it has helped support you on your dog parenting journey. So to celebrate our 100th episode, we are having a competition. All you need to do to enter the competition is follow the link in the description. That'll take you to a form, fill it out, and you will be entered into a prize draw. The top prize is going to be an hour's virtual one-to-one coaching session with myself, and there will be 10 runner-up prizes. That will give you 1 month's access to our brand new Paw Academy online training hub full of videos. So if you would like to enter this competition, fill that form in, and I hope you guys are one of the lucky winners.
Thank you for listening to The Dynamic Dog Owner with me, Debbie Potter. See you next time.